Morning and welcome to Sports Central, brought to you live and exclusive to Spectrum Television. And I am Mr. David, returning a day after we saw match day one of the UEFA Champions League for 2025 and 2026 season, returning with a whole lot of matches we saw last night, with some matches expected to go down later today. We'll look into those matches and what happened in respective centers as we had Champions League nights returning. We'll also look at all the conversations surrounding the world of sports, from the world of tennis to track and field event, as we still have the World Athletics Championship still up and running. Many Nigerians will be in action later today. We'll look at, of course, all the conversations surrounding the world of football. The NNL season is set to commence much later this year, and it looks like we'll be having a new format as regards to what has actually been obtainable even in the past years as well. But before we talk about all of that extensively, let's first of all bring you up to speed with some big development making rounds in the world of sports. Welcome to the show. Well, let's begin from the world of tennis, where Barbara Krejcikova of the Czech Republic cruised to a 6-1, 6-2 win against Russian qualifier Tatiana Prosorova during a rain-filled Tuesday session at the Korea Open in Seoul. After a 2-hour weather delay, the two-time major champion won 80% of the points on her first serve and saved both break points she faced in the 76-minute victory. Krejcikova's second-round opponent will be the winner between number 8 seed Emma Raducanu of Great Britain and Romania's Jacqueline Christian, whose clash was one of 5 first-round matches postponed on Wednesday. In Tuesday's only other action, number 5 seed Diana Schneider of Russia is tied 2-6, 6-2 through 2 sets against American qualifier Kati McNally. Away from that, reigning champions of the Zenith Bank Women's Basketball League, MFM, suffered a stunning 51-41 defeat to Dolphins Basketball Club on day one of the 2025 Final 8 playoffs, taking place at the Indoor Sports Hall of the National Stadium in Surulere, Lagos. The coach, Ochuko Owolabi-led side, who have won the last 2 editions of the annual playoffs, were heavy favorites heading into the late fixture on Tuesday evening. As expected, MFM were quick off the blocks in the opening quarter and made light work of their opponent. Led by enterprising Wando Heben and Idubamo Begi, who featured at the FIBA Under-19 Women's Basketball World Cup in Czechia earlier in this summer. MFM took a commanding 16-5 lead. They continued their dominance over Dolphins in the second and third quarters, as victory seemed a near formality. However, Dolphins launched a massive comeback in the fourth and final quarter as they foiled every attempt made by MFM. Successive 3-pointers saw Dolphins led for the first time in the game in the fourth quarter, which they easily saw through the register, a first win of the opening day. Away from that, former Nigerian sprint and national record holder in the men's 100-meter, Olusoji Fasuba, has tipped the 2025 World Championships finalist, Keyinsola Ajayi, to break the African record, which is currently held by Kenya's Ferdinand Omalaya. Ajayi finished in a respectable 6th position with a time of 10 seconds in a star-studded 100-meter final in Sunday on Tokyo. Jamaica's Oblique Seville took the title with a new personal best of 9.77 seconds, followed by his Jamaican teammate Kishena Thompson in second with a time of 9.82 seconds, while former world champion Noah Lillis took bronze with a season's best of 9.89 seconds. Before the final, the 21-year-old ran 2 sub-10s races in the heats and the semi-finals. Impressed by Ajayi's outing, Fasuba, who was the last Nigeria to make the final of the men's 100-meter event at the World Championships in 2007, acknowledged the youngster's immense talent. Fasuba set the 100-meter African record with 9.85 seconds in Doha, Qatar in 2006, until Sibin broke it with 9.84 seconds in 2021, while Omalaya lowered it to 9.77 seconds later that year. Away from that, club owners in the Nigerian National League have unanimously agreed to abolish the Super 8 playoffs ahead of the commencement of the 2025 and 2026 season. They reached a consensus agreement during its annual general meeting ahead of the new campaign in Kaduna. The club owners unanimously agreed that 4 teams from each conference will automatically secure the promotion ticket to the Nigeria Premier Football League. Also, the last 3 clubs in conferences A and B will be relegated, while the last 2 teams in conferences C and D will be relegated. Meanwhile, the 2025 and 2026 NNL season will kick off on November 8, 2025, with a star match between Lobby Stars and, of course, CTFC of Abuja, while the season is expected to end in April 2026. Still talking football, Kylian Mbappe in the Champions League converted 2 penalties, and 10-man Real Madrid came back to beat visiting Marseille 2-1 on Tuesday on the opening night of the Champions League. The victory meant that 15-time champions Real Madrid became the first team in competition history since the rebranding in the early 1990s to reach 200 wins. And it gave former Real Madrid playing standout Xabi Alonso a victory in his Champions League debut as the club's coach. Timothy Weah put visiting Marseille ahead early on, but Mbappe struck back from the penalty spot in the 29th and 81st minutes. Madrid captain Dani Carvajal was sent off in the 72nd minute for headbutting Marseille goalkeeper Jonimo Rulli. Carvajal has been sent on as an early replacement for the injured Trent Alexander-Arnold, but either issue was to prove costly on this occasion as Mbappe earned the plaudits and took his goal tally for the club to 50. But that's all we have for your sports wrap-up. We'll take a very short breather. When we return, we'll have an extensive conversation as you guys what's happening in the world of sports and much more. Do stay with us.